right in
It's
between
good.
you.
Okay.
Hello.
Wow.
Hello, and welcome to Beaverdale Books. Can you hear me back there? Yes. Okay. Thanks so much for coming out on this chilly evening. I want to mention a couple of upcoming programs. Monday night, we have Robert Stack, and he's going to share his new book called Silent No Longer, Advancing the Fight for Disability Rights. Then on Wednesday, this is going to be a really fun event. Hayseed Press is going to be here sharing a couple of their books, and we've got like 4 or 5 authors. There's lots of short stories in it, and several of the authors are going to be here. Their books are called Iowa Weird, Volume 1, and a very special Hayseed Christmas. And you can find all the details. That starts at 6:30. So go to our website for more info. All right, tonight, fiction writer Grant Faulkner teamed with photographer Gail Butensky to create a truly unique book, a flash novel of short stories that are told to photographs and all linked together into a longer narrative of 2 lovers taking a reckless searching road trip through the American West. Grant is the co-founder of Memoir Nation and also the co-host of the Memoir Nation podcast, the co-founder of the Flash Fiction Institute, the co-founder of 100 Word Story, and an executive producer on America's Next Great Author. He has published 3 books on writing: The Art of Brevity, Crafting the Very Short Story, Pep Talks for Writers, 52 Insights and Actions to Boost Your Creative Mojo, and Brave the Page, a teen writing guide. He's also published All the Comfort Sin Can Provide, Fishers, and Nothing Short of 100 Selected Tales from 100 Word Stories. This event is going to be moderated by Callie White Van Bali, a Des Moines area creative writing professor and award-winning author of novels, short stories, essays, and articles. And she's the author of the novels The Monster We Make, The Good Divide, and The Space Between. And she's going to be here
in February next fall
to talk about her new book. So stay tuned for that. All right, please join me in a warm welcome for Grant and Callie.
Everybody, thank you, Jan. It's so nice. I just want to say that the book takes place entirely in the Southwest in the summer, where it's super hot. The challenge is to be cool, and that's one reason to bring it home with you tonight.
Thank you. I'm so happy
Callie.
to talk to you again.
Here are Callie. Is perhaps the best book interviewer in the country, the best one I've experienced, and she's won awards for her ability to detassel corn.
All right, we'll go with that one. We have this weird, like, how we met and became friends and discovered all these, like, we grew up in towns not far from each other. Our high schools played each other, and we did not meet until I moderated during a Beaverdale Books event a few years ago.
Exactly. Yeah.
And talked about detasseling.
And we talked about detasseling.
My second favorite subject after NBA basketball with Hunter.
Well,
And I want to say, I don't think anyone's written a great detasseling essay.
I don't think so.
And it's
Yes.
been on my mind for like 20 or 30 years. Every time I
Yes.
talk about it, I'm like, somebody has to capture this.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. It's
That'll be my next book.
Okay.
Photos of porn and stories of detasseling. Yeah.
Well, I have read a ton of your work. I'm a huge fan of you had The Art of Brevity and the 100 Words short story. I mean, like all these different projects. And this book, your new book, feels like nothing you've ever written before. It's very different. Can you tell everyone what it is and how it came to be?
Yeah, it's funny you say that I've never written anything like it. I mean, it's technically true in that. So my friend Gail Butensky, she and I waited tables in San Francisco's Mission District at this restaurant called Radio Valencia way back in the early 90s. And it was a very, sort of renowned little funny cafe that had all these great musicians play there. And Gail was a long-term photographer of like bands and punk rock bands, especially from back in New York City in the early '80s. And anyway, but she loved road trips, and she would take these amazing photos of the Southwest. And so I just became entranced by her photography and really respected her aesthetic, going way back. But we were just friends, and Gail's very unself-promotional or very uncareerist-driven. She just likes to take photos for fun, even though she's been recognized. So she put out this tiny little book with a small publisher, and he said, and I blurbed her book, and he said, why don't you pair your photos with Grant's 100-word stories? So the idea actually came from this publisher.
Okay.
We then left for another publisher, but with perfectly good relations. He's very supportive. But we needed a bigger publisher, actually. But yeah, so Gail gave me like about 40 of her photos, just random ones, and I took them home and started with the intention of writing a 100-word story for each one. And for those of you who don't know, like I've been doing 100-word stories for about 15 years, and I have a literary magazine called 100wordstory.org. But while I was writing them, I just started playing around a little bit, and I didn't intend for them to be connected into a longer story. So each story is about a photo, but all the stories build on each other, and that's why I call it a flash novel. Flash fiction, meaning stories that are 1,000 words or less. And so it becomes kind of like a novel to me, even though it's only about 7,000 words, I think.
There's a definite arc to it.
Yeah, there's an arc, and I think the photos make it. I also think it's a little bit like watching a film, because the photos are very filmic and cinematic. So I think the story is sort of like a voiceover to the photos.
When did you start realizing it was evolving more into a connecting arc instead of individual, self-contained 100-word stories?
Yeah, I can't remember, but somewhere there in the first draft.
Okay.
I just thought it'd be more fun to connect them and more of an interesting challenge. And also, I think when I first started writing them, there are only two, well, there are more than two characters in the book, but two main characters on this road trip, and they're lovers, kind of doomed lovers, tragic lovers. And they just planted themselves in my brain. So I think because it was, like, I love the creative process, because it was kind of like taking a card out of a deck of cards and not knowing what it's going to be. So every time I just took one of Gail's photos out of the stack, it was just random, and I'd say, okay, I'll write to this one, or maybe I'd put it back in and take another one. But it was so fun, because I didn't have to think about plot, which I hate thinking about.
Yes.
I didn't have to think about a lot of those things, or I just thought about them. They were more fun to think about through the photos.
Yeah.
As a writer. Yeah, and I think I think it's a better story too.
Do you remember which photo you started with? Is it the first photo we see?
It is the first photo, yeah. And so this is a photo. This is this photo.
Yeah. I was going to say.
Yeah.
And did you draw this one randomly?
I think so. I can't,
Or did it speak to you to start it?
Maybe both.
Okay.
I think most of what drove this book. I mean, it's funny. Sometimes I'm a very inadequate writing teacher, because my answer.
No, that's not true.
That's not true. Okay.
Sorry.
I'm going to interview you now.
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Thank you. But no, when I say that, it's because so often I just want to reply, it's just intuitive. And the thing that but intuition, which sounds like it's just a gut impulse, but it's not quite right, because intuition is based on years of practice.
Yeah.
That goes into that intuition, years of reading, years of thinking, all that kind of stuff. But to me, it just feels intuitive.
Yeah. So I was curious when I read it. So then you got this first picture. You wrote this to here, and then started a new inspiration, and that's how you got your flow.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So I think it's a little bit like a poem in that sense. Like I view, other than it being a flash novel, I kind of view it as a prose poem.
Did you pull any photos that you just nothing came for the story?
Definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we left photos behind, and actually, the University of New Mexico Press is the publisher, and they did a fantastic job. What was interesting about them is what they invested. They wanted to make the book an art object unto itself, and I think they accomplished that.
Yes.
But when I sent them my first draft with the photos, they gave me editorial feedback. They wanted like more story, and so we needed more photos, and that was also super fun, just to get these like, okay, like we're gonna fill out the story. I mean, I knew how I was gonna fill out the story, but
Yeah.
I didn't know how the photos would help with that.
Oh, interesting.
So that was super fun. Yeah.
So between the text that you wrote and the photos, I thought the book, it feels like it's really attuned to these themes of like longing, absence, and attention. When you first looked at Gail's photos, what drew you to those particular emotional, that thematic terrain?
I think it was, dang, I'm going to get the person wrong. I hate when I quote from the wrong person, so I'll just say some great writer said. So I mentioned that I struggle with plot, even after writing for 40 years, where I feel like I'm plot insecure. So a lot of my writing life is spent trying to avoid having to think about plot. I'm probably all right, to tell you the truth. It's probably I'm beating myself up. But where am I? Oh, and so the great writer said, plot is really just yearning, you know, and I think that's so interesting. I mean, I need other words for plot than plot. And so if I write a book of yearning, which I think is much more interesting to me, it's much more layered and poetic. And, yeah, and so I think everything I write is based in yearning and longing for something that's kind of impossible, you know.
That's funny what you say about plot, because I think a lot of writers struggle. I mean, either you have that like plot gene, or you have to learn to build or work around it. And so there's this class I teach with my grad students called Architecture of the Novel, and I use a theory from a woman. Her last name was Vandenberg, and she thinks that story and plot are separate. That plot is more architectural elements, like the inner workings
I like that.
of what moves it forward, and people get so stuck on the word plot.
Yeah.
Where story, like you obviously enmeshed in a story very easily, and so separating the two
Yeah.
sometimes
See, Callie's a great
frees the brain.
I
Yeah.
just say intuition.
Yeah. No, I'm not, I could go down a rabbit
No,
hole
that's
on
great.
that.
I love that
plot,
difference.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, because I do think different words or different ways to approach it help. And like Lydia Yuknovich was on my podcast, and we kind of bonded because she's very plot insecure or plot challenged.
Yes.
So she just hated. So if you take creative writing classes, there's this thing called Freytag's pyramid. It's basically like the story goes up, like a roller coaster, and then down. You know, and so a lot of it's the dominant metaphor for plot, and it doesn't work for a lot of writers.
Yeah.
And a lot of books actually don't follow that, although probably most do in some respect. But she said we both had read this French kind of poet, kind of flash fiction author before that term was used, Nathalie Serreau, who writes just these beautiful little stories. And I can't remember if this word came from Nathalie Serreau or Lydia, but Lydia writes to the intensities. And so I think that's partly what this book is writing to the intensities. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, and intensities don't have to be overly, wildly dramatic. You know, sometimes there's small moments in our lives, but they feel intense.
Yeah. It's funny because I'm teaching that class right now, and after this big discussion, I had read the book and I was getting my stuff ready to chat with you. And I was like, this is an example of where a writer, his instinct, he writes immediately to story. Like instead of maybe getting mired down in the mechanics and concern of plot.
Yeah.
And neither is right or wrong.
No, definitely not.
It's
different stories, you know, require different tools.
right.
You know.
Right.
So
Yeah. So the book, so for those of you who haven't read it, the book blends these beautiful stories with photographs, and rather than using the images as simple illustration, how did the collaboration with Gail shape the way you approached the writing? Did you work together on that, or did you just get the photos from her and then you were free to just write?
pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a very separate. I mean, she'd taken the photos over years.
Okay.
And that was her thing, and she gave the photos to me, and we didn't really talk about what type of story it would be.
Okay.
So
She was like open to whatever, however you.
pretty much.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's what I really like about her. You know,
Uh-huh.
and I guess even though we're not like exactly super tight friends, but we've kept in touch. You know, so but I have a trust in her. You know, whatever how she approaches the world, her aesthetic, and we share a lot of the same aesthetic. Like we like the same bands, we like the same books. Yeah, so I didn't worry a lot about her not liking it, and she did like it. And I do remember, like, there was one draft in there where she's like, "There's so much God in this." Or there's too much God in this. It's just very whatever. I mean, I'm sort of a secular mystic, but yeah. Anyway.
Oh, that's a funny.
I don't
piece
think
of
we cut
feedback.
any of the God parts though.
Okay.
I'm a little bit Dennis Johnson in that respect.
Yeah. I noticed that several of the sections seem to like hover between like a personal and meditative, and it didn't seem concerned like it was giving us neat conclusions, and so I wondered how you think about closure or lack thereof whenever you're shaping a piece, whether it be, the individual stories and how they shaped the whole, or just closure as a whole.
I'm not sure I believe in closure, to say the truth, in life or fiction. I mean, novels have closure, stories have closure, but I don't know. It's not the way I think about the world.
Me too. I think of it's not closure; it's just the stopping point
Yeah.
of that story.
Sometimes things come together. But one thing I like about writing in this kind of prose poem style or flash fiction style is that ambiguity is a craft tool. And so ambiguity used. I mean, you got to be careful. You can't make it too ambiguous. You can't make it too disorienting. But I think ambiguity kind of invites the reader in, creates a sense of mystery. So that's where I would rather Jane, what was her name? Phillips, Jane Ann Phillips, is that it? Yeah. She said that a short piece should always end with the reader kind of taking a breath with them. So it's a way to say it's not closure.
Yeah.
That you're taking the breath of the story of the spirit with you.
Yeah. Another sort of theme or something I noticed was there's like how distance appears in so many forms between the illustrations and the writing. You see it geographically, but it's also emotionally and like in a temporal sense in the pieces you've written. Did you have a sense of that sort of any kind of distance when you were writing, or did that sort of emerge organically?
The distance, tell me a little bit more.
Like, so we see that first photo. That's how we enter the story.
Right.
With that photo. And the first line opens with, how do you describe a person? And it's this very pulled back view between the illustration and then the narrator entering the story. And then it starts to become more intimate. But then sometimes when we would start a new, we get another illustration, and we feel a little bit of distance, and sometimes between the two main characters we're talking about.
Right.
Was that something you had caught on to when you were writing it?
Not in any conscious way.
Okay.
I mean, just listening to you talk about it, I mean, I do think that one of the things that fascinates me is how people can be together and maybe even tightly together, and the distance still exists between them.
Yes.
How we are. There's a line in there about. I'm going to quote myself wrong. It's on the first page, but it's like the alone line.
Yes.
Where is it? I'm going to read it later, but it's. I don't want to mangle it. It's funny how you can't read what you wrote. Can't remember it. I know
that I'm alone, even when I am not alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then
so we're distant with ourselves too.
Yes. And I, like, after I read the ending line of that first section, that's the way I think of Dawn now, out there in the distance with that image. I don't know, it just set this certain something in my mind then when I kept reading that, yeah, there was this tension between the physical and emotional distance, but then sometimes the intimacy of the narrator and that back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, and even the physical act of drive, they are looking to get lost.
Yes.
They want to essentially abandon the world.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just an interesting theme to see emerge in so few words. Considering you said this is what, like 7,000 words?
Something like that.
That's like hardly a short story. I mean, that's like a short story.
I know. We got to boost it up to create some sales. Most poetry books are probably 7,000 words, right? Kelsey? Okay, you buy poetry.
So this was something else that is really interesting. There's so much observation throughout the collection, but also stillness between the photos, what's happening between this couple. And then I wondered, how do you practice like attention in your own creative life? I'm getting really weirdly deep here.
No, I love it.
It's such an
This is why Callie's the best
unconventional
interviewer
book,
in the world. Yeah, pretty soon you'll be asking me why there's so much God in this. Let me see. So the question was, sorry.
It was there's so much of the book is like observation,
Right.
but also this kind of quietness, some stillness to it, paired with photos. And I wondered if how that's part of your creative process,
Yeah.
like the observational part of it, how you.
I think one definition, I think one reason a lot of people are writers, including me, is that I basically like to be invisible and witness things, witness people. And I think especially photographers are like that. There's this great film called War Photographer, and James Nogamy, something like that. But anyway, he talked about how he could literally enter a whole crazy arena of war and trauma and literally just go up to people and be taking their photos, and it's like he's invisible. And so part of my thing with photos is that I had all these repetitive stress, carpal tunnel things in my 30s, which was supposed to be my glorious decade, but it ended up being a decade where I didn't write, barely at all, because I was in so much pain I couldn't even hold a book for a while.
Oh wow.
And so I was looking for a different creative outlet. At some point I was just like, well, writing's not going to work out. So I tried a few things that didn't stick. Then I tried photography and it stuck. And so I've been taking, I kind of call myself a serious hobbyist with photographs. So I do a lot of slinking around, walking around, taking photos, witnessing.
Yeah.
And so I think that that's part of it. That's just part of who I am. And I think that the character Jonny, who narrates the story, he is in a somewhat passive state of watching. Like, I don't know that he's a character who knows how to be in the mix.
Yes.
Or be action oriented. You know, he's following her. You know, yeah.
Yeah.
Did that answer your question?
It did.
Yeah.
I asked. It was kind of a weird,
I love
heavy
it.
question.
I love
But, so when you first were pitched this project, what do you remember exciting you most about pairing visual uncertainty with prose?
Yeah, so I had always wanted to do a photo and prose project, and I had a bunch of different ideas for it. And the literary journal that I mentioned earlier, the 100-word story, so we pair a photo with every 100-word story, and then we have a monthly photo prompt where people write stories to photos. And I've actually have, I don't know, hundreds of photos that I have in a file called photo prompts, you know. And so for these short pieces, I think the best metaphor to think about them in as a writer or a reader is that they're snapshots. They're like, who was it? I think it was Versailles who said, like a photographer, you want to capture the defining moment. That's what the photographer's job is. And so I think that's one job of the writer here, is to capture the definitive moment, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, yeah.
What do you think was the most challenging part of creating this book compared to any other book or piece of writing
The
you've...
most challenging part?
Yeah, the most challenging part. Or did it feel...
It felt so unchallenging.
Wow.
It felt beautifully joyful and nice and easy, and I never want to write a book that's not like this. I mean, I will, but under duress. I mean, I really just want to write stories and photos, seriously.
Do you think the photos actually helped provide guided inspiration along the way, and that was a part of that process that made it easier?
Yeah, I think, I mean, like I say, like your division between story and plot, I think the photos freed me from doing plot because they were their own structure, even though I didn't outline with the stories, you know. And so they had a life of their own that kind of led things.
Yeah.
And their randomness also became like a kind of game or challenge.
Okay.
And the brevity, because I'm very comfortable, most comfortable writing like little pieces that are brief, you know. So yeah, I mean, it was funny because like if you haven't written a book, it is like just so tough. You know, you spend years on it usually, and you go through a lot of self-doubt and a lot of revision. It's just a lot of work, and that's great. I love it all, but this one didn't have that in that same way. And it's not just because it's brief or short. It's just because it just was a moment where it all flowed.
Yeah.
You know? And I think it helped that they were actually, people have asked me like why I don't write to my own photographs.
I was gonna ask you that.
Yeah, and so I think the distance is that you gain more creative distance when you're not writing about your own photographs. So it's great to have hers, and it, you know, I mean, even though I knew her and you know whatever, it was like just finding these photos essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was one of the, I think only the second or third book I could think of that had so deliberately paired illustrations, photographs with a fictional story, and it reminded me of Karen Russell's last novel, Antidote, which was so different than anything she'd ever written. She integrated a lot of photos in that full-length novel. Yeah, and it has that similar, like her chapters are a little almost more shorter, self-contained, and so maybe you guys are onto something.
Yeah, she got an idea for a novel that she wrote, and I basically had the same idea. I didn't write mine because Chris came out.
When was that?
Maybe we are. I've never read her, to tell you the truth.
Oh, you haven't?
Yeah, I won't even go into the novels, but yeah, hers I'm sure is better.
That's not true.
It's about sleeplessness being a virus.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm kind of a lifetime insomniac.
Oh, yeah. You know, Liz Gilbert wrote an entire book about the notion, she calls it big magic, that ideas attach to certain writers, and she truly believes
I remember that.
they can somehow transfer. So maybe your idea transferred.
Yeah, I remember
to Karen
reading that
Russell.
and thinking, this is me and Karen Russell.
You
actually
like, somewhere in the world, somehow your
Not
idea
joking.
transferred.
It's a little too mystical for me.
Yeah.
I like mysticism, but not quite that.
So after you said, because one of my questions was going to be, after completing this collaboration, has your sense of what a story or story arc can be or can do expanded in new ways? And you said, well, I think I only want to write like this for
Yeah. I mean, the funny thing about that, it'll be interesting to see if I can. I actually might do something with my photos. Gail and I were just swapping texts yesterday and came up with a very kooky idea for another photo storybook. So I like to think it's possible. For those of you who don't follow whatever publishing stuff, most publishers don't want to publish a book like this. It's expensive. Well, here's the thing. Like, there's the big 5 publishers, right? They're all New York, whatever, big publishers. They really are looking at books through a commercial lens, even though, of course, they publish a lot of great books. but they become very conventional as a result. They don't take many risks.
Right.
They're very risk averse, very conservative. And so this book is too different for them to really think about or conceive of. And that's why I was actually, when I went to my agent with this book, she was like, no one's really going to want it, because they want things that are known quantities and that fit the mold. And so I was very fortunate because the University of New Mexico Press, which had published my book, The Art of Brevity, was conveniently located right over there on the bookshelf. That I just went to them because they were in the Southwest, and I didn't really expect them to take it. But not only did they take it, they loved it because it was different. Like that, they saw that as a market opportunity, and that's how I've always seen things that are different. I mean, you guys can tell me as booksellers, but I like to think that there's like I remember when the book Griffin and Sabine came out in 1987, because I was working in a bookstore. It was my second job out of college, and that book was so crazy, so different. You had to pick it up, and it was a wild bestseller as a result. And I know that can't happen with every book, but that's the way I kind of viewed this.
Yeah.
So it has to become a wild bestseller now, but I want more different books. I want to walk into bookstores and see different objects.
They are hard to find.
Yeah.
It is hard to find serious risk and experimentation in publishing anymore.
Yeah, totally.
I remember, did you ever read Amy Krauss Rosenthal's memoir, Encyclopedia of an Ordinary Life? And she has nothing huge in her memoir. It's just all these little anecdotes from her life, and they're organized like an encyclopedia reference back and forth.
That's similar. Czesław Miłosz. I guess it's a tradition in Poland, but it's a book of ABCs. And so he categorizes the whole book, and it'll be like A, and he'll write about an experience with an apple, or P, he'll write about, I don't know, polo, something.
Yeah.
Just things in your life, these little topics that become little stories or little poems.
So Grant wrote, so I'm like Grant, I do some editing, and so I'm one of the co-editors on a literary journal called Past 10. It's these essays where people write about their life exactly 10 years ago on a certain date. And Grant wrote one for our editorial team, and then we ended up getting a book deal, and his essay anchored our book. And we had this big, fabulous book launch over last year in Los Angeles when we were all there for AWP, and several of our Past 10 writers came, Grant included, and that was where you met my dear friend June Gervais, who's also in the collection. And you two, you have to tell them this. This is the cool thing about writing, and that I think writers need to just let themselves try weird stuff, because you and June are working on the funniest, coolest project.
We're writing an almanac.
You're what?
We're writing an almanac.
Of course.
We decided there needed to be a new
They're
almanac in the world.
Co-writing an almanac.
On what?
Just like, if you go up front, you'll see the 2026 almanac, which happens to be a bestseller. Almanacs are still relevant. They're still bestsellers. And they're the kookiest books in the world. Like the whole prediction of the weather, they predict the weather for the whole year. Like, of course they can't do that. They have no meteorologists on staff. If you read it, they're using some runic mystical formulas from the early 1800s that they will not let the public see. So the whole premise of an almanac is this one part hucksterism, one part snake oil salesperson, but all this kind of folksy wisdom and agrarian wisdom, kind of thrown in there. And so June, who I wonderfully met at Callie's reading, which was just an amazing reading, one of the best ones I've been to or participated in, and I don't even know how it came up. We didn't know each other at all.
Yeah, I introduced you because then you had to introduce June. She read after you.
I introduced her at the reading, and somehow within our first 2 or 3 emails to each other, I proposed the almanac, and I think I'd just seen it, some mention of an almanac online, and I like how June responded with, "Yeah, I'll write an almanac with you." So we've had this Google Doc where we And it's fun because we only write. There's no pressure. We have talked to our agents about it, and it's like this. It's effortless and fun and meaningful, and we are like redefining the almanac. It's going to be super fun.
Yeah, and the whole reason I mentioned it is because ever since I met you, and now we teach together at Okoboji, and we hang out a few times a year, and you write across so many different genres, and you've always got so many different projects going. But the one thing I've noticed about you is you always seem like you have joy in your writing, whatever project. Like sometimes it's like an almanac that you in June like conceived of, and you're doing in a Google Doc, but you're always creating something, and it seems like you have fun with it.
Try to. I mean, that should be part of all creation.
But I think for a lot of writers, especially in today's market and today's sort of publishing culture, some of the industry has really flattened the joy and fun in writing, of being creative and just...
It's the sad thing that a lot of writers, when they get published, like if their first book doesn't sell well enough, and then it's hard to get a second book deal, and you meet a lot of very defeated writers.
So many.
A lot of writers who've even written something really great, and then they just stop.
And they just quit writing.
Yeah, a lot of them quit, and it's just unfortunate because there's something bigger, I think, that we're serving as writers than the sales of our books.
Yes.
I mean, I always say writing is my prayer. It's when I feel most in touch with what I'll just generally call the divine. And I think writers always need to be in service of their story, and it's not necessarily about publishing that story, because it's something you have to do and should be rooted in passion. Like I'm actually, so Memoir Nation, we put out a weekly newsletter, and my partner Brooke and Warner and I alternate. And my theme for this week, because we're in the midst of this event called Jan Your Story, which is a challenge for people to write 500 words of their memoir every day. It's been a really glorious month. But grit comes into any writing. And I think you have to have grit, of course. They say grit's more important than talent or brains for success. And I actually do believe that.
I do too.
But I think the word grit has a lot of baggage that's sort of unpleasant. Like it does get into that, like no pain, no gain.
Yes, and that's where the line you have to find.
Yeah, so I think you have to think of grit. Well, grit needs joy. Grit needs playfulness. And grit's such an American thing too. It's like the whole heroic, the solitary hero who does it all him or herself. And I think you need community of support. You need to recognize all of these other factors that are behind grit. So I think sometimes, I think writing selects for a certain type of self-doubting person. That makes them vulnerable to that.
Yeah.
Too.
And you seem to slip so easily into collaborations.
I don't know how that happened. I used to be one of these really super solitary writers, and now I don't want to do anything in life alone. I mean, I'm writing a memoir. I like writing some things alone. Yeah. But all the things that Jan listed me doing all have at least one key partner.
Yes.
They wouldn't be possible without that. So
I have gravitated more towards working in. So we both teach for the Okoboji Writers Retreat. We both have columns on Substack, and I'm a member of the Iowa Writers Collaborative with, I think several writers are here. We have a poet, Kelsey, and I saw Sarah come in. Yeah. So I find I'm gravitating more and more towards, because the solitary and that constant grit, I don't know, it can drain the joy out of it.
Yeah, at least especially in business ventures.
Yeah.
For me, I mean, just getting somebody else's ideas and resources and just being accountable to them, motivated by them. I mean, it's just I just think it's so much better than doing it alone.
Yeah. And you're still writing your Substack, right? Intimations?
Yeah, so I have a weekly Substack newsletter. I put a lot of work into it. It's basically what I've probably been doing most of the writing, my writing in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
I find a lot of meaning in it. So yeah, it's weekly. It's free. It's I don't know how to describe it really. I think it's kind of like what the title is, Intimations, a Writer's Discourse. I'm just kind of mulling over different aspects of being a writer. I chose the name. I woke up one day and I was just frustrated with a whole kind of genre of writing that I participate in too. The kind of like just like this 100% inspirational rah writing. Perfectly fine to do that. I wrote a whole book, 52 pep talks, you know. But I woke up and I said, I just want to write something very different, you know, something. It was stupid. I chose the name because it was not commercially like it was just not something that people really want to sign up for, you know. And so and I like it because it's like that, you know. So it's supposed to be a little whatever. I'm not explaining it very well, but
No, I get it. I get it. And you also, the podcast you do with Brooke, Right Minded, is so fantastic. You get some big guests on there, big time writers on
there.
there.
Very lucky, yeah.
Yeah.
We rebranded it Memoir Nation because Brooke, my co-host on the podcast, we started the Memoir Nation organization and website and community. And so Right Minded, we've done that for like 7 years. And so we rebranded it Memoir Nation. So we're more focused exclusively on memoirs now. Yeah. But we just had Amanda Knox teach a class for us. She was on the podcast, and Maggie Smith. We had Jeff Tiller, who's one of my favorite comedians. He was just got the Emmy for
Oh my gosh.
Somebody Somewhere. Yeah, he's one of my favorite people. He in real life, he's just as good. Yeah. So anyway,
How do you structure your work schedule?
I don't really.
Okay.
For Brooks the same way. We got asked that. We are both of us juggle a bunch of different stuff.
Yes.
And it's a weird day because it's always going back and forth with a lot of stuff. And I think so. It's these short bursts of focus, which I like. You know, I don't know if I think I used to have much more focus and concentration in this age we're living in. I'm highly destructible, or like short bursts of attention on one thing and moving to another. I'm conflicted because I think it can be good for creativity, you know, because one definition of creativity is that you're bringing disjointed things together.
Yeah.
Or different things together into one, you're synthesizing them. And that's kind of the way, at least I spend my day, jumping from one thing to the other. So I like to think somehow they're feeding each other, even without me knowing it. I don't know.
I think they do too.
It's also a little man-made.
Yes, and then you get overextended and you get behind.
Yeah.
I do that as well.
Constantly overextended.
Overextended. I want to make sure I leave time for questions from the audience for Grant.
Are we doing any of the photos?
Should I read first?
Oh, yeah.
Should I read first? Jan wants me to get you read.
Okay.
I'll read from this
I think
book.
you want to see the pictures, right?
Do you want a copy?
No, I got a book.
Okay.
Copy here. Where should I stand?
Right where you were.
Right where
probably.
I was.
Yeah.
Okay. This is going to be hard.
Is it going to be hard?
Well, I think I can do it.
Okay.
Holding the mic makes it a little
Take Callie's mic.
You want to switch?
Sure. That might be easier. I could get a coffee at the same time. That's kind of the metaphor for my life, actually. Okay.
You take that.
Okay. I need help. In many different regards.
No.
Right.
Yes, there you
I
go.
was right.
You were correct.
See, randomness sometimes works. When the glasses go on,
Yeah.
does it work? That works?
Should.
It should?
Uh-huh.
No, I'm asking you, does it?
Now it is.
It is now, okay. Thank you for saying it should, Jan.
I thought you meant with the glasses.
She thought you meant does
It
it work
should
like
work.
fashionably.
Yeah.
I want to remind you that your bosses are here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Probably haven't had your performance review.
No, I haven't. And I hope I don't.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So this is the first photo in the book. I'll just read about 5 of these or so. How do you describe a person? Is it their smell, the rhythm of their breaths, the way they pinch their lips without even knowing it, the crimp of their brow? Or is it the force of their longing, the determination of their steps, their wild joy? You can feel a person, can't you? Feel them even when they're in another room, even when they're gone. I think we all possess something inside us like electricity, a pulse, an energy. You feel it, but you can't see it. It's there even when it's not. I suppose that's a soul. I know that none of us sees quite the same world. I know that as much as I touch and hold, grasp and yearn. I know that I'm alone, even when I am not alone. And yet there's something, always something beckoning us in the clouds. Something like a scent in the air. Something out there in the distance. That's the way I think of dawn now, out there in the distance. I got a second photo. It seems like it's human's mission to fill all the vacant spaces on this planet, Dawn said. She loved golf courses, especially those carved into the desert, swaths of lushness bordered by desiccation. The land of eternal green, she'd say in a sing-song voice, everything painted so perfectly. She hated golf courses. Utopias of stolen water, she said, everything painted so perfectly. We once drove across a golf course at night, our headlights shining down the narrow fairway, darkness cocooning us. I drove up onto a green and she demanded that I do a donut. We stopped the car on top of a hill and lay on the hood under the stars and listened to the owls hooting. She cried, thinking that the chemicals sprayed on the grass infected the owls' eggs. She emptied our gas can on the grass and lit a match. The gas burned in a dramatic conflagration, but then it died out, and the grass too moist with the daily drenching of water. I hate losing, she said, climbing back into the car. We drifted to sleep, listening to the odd sounds of the desert surrounding us. A cathedral of coos and scritches and scratches. We woke to flints of early morning light that pierced the windshield. The bleached dome of the sky hung above us, huge and empty. A man driving a lawnmower was heading toward us, yelling, and I hurried to start the car. She laughed when she looked in the rearview mirror and saw the lawnmower chasing us, the man having a fit. A conniption, she said. As we skidded back onto the highway, she saw a hawk flying by with a rat squirming in its mouth. Which one are we, the hawk or the rat, she asked. I think this is my favorite photo in the book. I love this. You can never take a bad picture of a palm tree, I think. The palm trees are like statues, I said. No, they're like dancers, she said. They're reaching up to God, I said. No, they're trying to touch one another. They want to escape, I said. No, they're afraid of being alone. Why do we see two different stories? Because you're always wrong. Let's see. Or maybe this is my favorite photo. Just have to find it. Tumbleweeds sat in the desert like hundreds of Buddhas sunbathing. The car's AC broke. The scent of the sun on our skin, on potato chips, on the seats of the car, on the dust itself. We listened to the radio of the land. We wondered if we'd have to drink the juice from a cactus in order to survive. We stole buckets of ice from hotel ice machines and filled our coolers, draping wet towels over our heads and shoulders. You can't take a bad photo of a highway, she said. It looks good no matter the angle, because it's always going somewhere. A cathedral of emptiness. She wrote a poem in the dust that covered the hood of our car. She told me to go faster, then faster again, the car shaking, as if pushing forward into a new dimension, as if the engine was about to blow. The antenna sliced the air as we drove over highways that unspooled endlessly. She threw our maps out the window. Everything is between us and God now, she said. Maybe one more? What do people have appetite for?
It's good.
No? You can tell me now. Stop. Oh, this one. So I have a whole collection of photos of mailboxes. Do you really?
I love mailboxes.
This is Liz Gilbert in action here.
I feel like it just transferred, and now I'm disappointed.
Well, we're gonna have to exchange photos of our mailboxes. Yeah, yeah, I love them. You see so many different ones.
Yeah.
It's a funny thing to get creative about in your mailbox because it's just so functional too. We bought old postcards in thrift stores and then walked through neighborhoods and jotted down the addresses of houses we liked and sent the cards to them. We addressed the cards with salutations like, "Dear tender soul," or "Dear miraculous creature," or "Dear bountiful being." We wrote things like, "Make sure you touch your toes every day and eat something purple and give your heart away, knowing it will be hurt." On one card she wrote, "You know what rhymes with cancer? Dancer and prancer and enhancer, not to mention necromancer. So get on with it, turn off your TV." When we saw this line of mailboxes, we bought rubber duckies and put one in each mailbox with a note, "Don't forget to float." Maybe one more.
One more?
One more. Okay.